Session 0. You know, that thing that you have to do before you can get to the actual playing. I get it. Sometimes players have a hard time putting together a backstory that ties them into the world, or struggle to come up with a concept that's a reason for their character to become an adventurer. But what if I told you that there's a game that you could run between 30 minutes and 2 hours long to build incredibly immersive jumping off points with huge player buy-in into completing everyone's stories at the table? Well, I caught up with Elise Resendez, one of the creators of the brand new Session 0 system by Mythic Grove Productions, at their PAX Unplugged booth to learn more. Tell me a little bit about the Session 0 system.
Yeah.
Who originally came up with this?
So this is the brainchild of Gabe Hicks and myself. We are the two game designers on the Session 0 system. We've got a multi-tool of a game here that is a playable backstory creation game with the story path deck in here, but there's also a lot of information about adding safety tools into your game, fostering kind communication at the table, working on character bleed, what to do if you have a player argument at the table, finding tone and mood in the game. But the real meal of it is this archetypal prompting card deck that we have. We also have it in a book for people who want to use it on the go. We've got the legacy. This is going to be questions about where your character is from. The bond, someone who's had a really deep and meaningful impact on your character story, and then the catalyst, the thing that actually set them off on their adventure. You go through answering questions, and then in the amalgam phase, each character at the table is going to take one element of the card and offer to connect it to another character's. So you have that serendipity, that kismet, the world interconnected and moving and breathing together. And then you tie that all up into a bow and you hand it to your GM or your storyteller and you say, boy, I care about this a lot. Sure would be bad if something happened to it. And then you've got this world that's evolved, you've got places, you've got people, you've got events that have happened in time, and your GM has the ability to make any of those move in the world and expand a story out. You've got motivations from a ton of different angles so that players have characters that love the world they're in.
So tell me a little bit more about what inspired the card system for this.
Yeah, one of the first versions of this game that I ran happened about 4 or 5 years ago. I was in one of my longest running campaigns. I was playing with a bunch of new players and we did the classic, hey, I really love combat in the beginning because I'm a new player. And then it was, oh, the shopping episode is fun. It's going to be about the stuff that I have. And then it was, oh, role play. I love the role play, and as we were moving through that, I had a player who did like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to multi-class as a paladin or as a rogue. I have these two options, and I said, well, why don't we role play it out? And I built one of the first versions of this. I built a character, which ended up being the bond path. I built a location, which was the legacy path, and then an event that happened. And I built these two different versions, and we played through both of them. And when it got to the thief, when it got to the rogue, it was like this young thiefling kid that was like, hey, you can go join the paladins, you can be on the shining beacon of the city, but that system doesn't work for everybody. There's a lot of people who are left behind. Like, welcome to my world, welcome to the disenfranchised. Here are the people who are left outside of your beautiful city. The system doesn't work for everybody. We're trying to fix it, and we're on the fringes, we're on the outside. We're trying to fix it from underground. And my player was just like, oh, I care deeply about this kid that I didn't know 30 minutes ago. I'm a rogue, like this is it, this is my calling. And then we had so much more information as two storytellers playing the game together, and that kind of turned into the Session 0 system, which was really awesome to be able to tie it back to a moment where we played the first version of it years before it ended up being a thing, which was incredible.
That's amazing. So it sounds like this is like basically tying a Session 0 like way more into like actual storytelling rather than a focus on party balance and mechanics and things like that.
Yeah, and especially because like there are rules in a lot of TTRPGs for how to do that, but that's provided. In so many games it just says, you know, decide who your character is, what's their backstory, how did your party meet, decide where you begin the adventure. That's so much world building, that's such a heavy lift. So we built a system agnostic game that works with any TTRPG that helps with that lift. This is a lot of finding the balance in the story that you want to play. This is about setting up guardrails in case the tone or the material that you're diving into takes a sharp turn and all of a sudden nobody's having fun anymore. For when you need to pull the handbrake and say, hey, parachute moment, I actually need to pause real quick. I didn't realize that this was going to be hard for me. And then specifically with the fragment paths and the story building decks, we wanted to make sure that by the time you sit down, you know a little bit more about the world. That black circle on the map is a little bit more filled in so that you know a lot more about the characters that you're playing.
What inspired you to do something around safety tools? It's kind of a hot button right now in the TTRPG community.
It is, and I had a really interesting conversation with someone online recently, and we got to a really interesting point where I said, I don't plan to crash my car, but I do wear my seatbelt every time I get into it because I know I'm in a situation where things can be dangerous, and I want to have something prepared to catch me in a moment if I need saving. That's all that safety tools are for me, and everybody has their lines, everybody has the things that they want to use them, but one of the phrases that we have early in this game is salt to taste. You don't need to use everything. If this isn't something that you want to use at your game, you don't have to. We wanted to provide a lot of tools for people who haven't had the opportunity to include safety tools and want to peruse. They want to do a little bit of window shopping. One of the first things that we did that was super important to me is we went into the different reasons why you'd be adding safety tools. If you're dealing with subject matters that are close to someone's uncomfort zone, if you're dealing in a horror RPG where you're going to be playing through things that are just going to get a little fucky and you want to be able to say, hey, that's the edge and we might go over, right? But I'm not planning on it, but we want to have something there just in case. Or if you're like, hey, we're a new table, we don't know the ins and outs of the relationships with everybody around, we want to make sure that there's something preventative just in case. So those are the sort of main three reasons. And then the other thing that we did was we wanted to shout out a lot of people who are doing the really great work of safety tools in the community. So we included information from Kiana Shaw and Lauren Bryant Monk, who built the TTRPG Safety Toolkit, which is just a free resource that you can get online as a link. We included others like the X-Card system, information about who built Lines and Veils and all that stuff. And then we included some of our own, the ones that Gabe and I have used at the table that we found are the most useful for us, especially with the different kinds of players that we play with. And it's just important, I think, even if you don't use them, to know that that is available, because as the story evolves, you might actually get to a point where you might need to add something in the middle of a long-term campaign, or we're going to be dealing with something like Candela Obscura, where we're getting really close to something that's really horror and eldritch, and it's gory and visceral, and we want to make sure that everybody has that moment of pause, reset, go again. And that should be available to everybody. So we want to make sure we included it. It was really important for us.
What I'd like to know is just a 1,000-foot view of the most useful original safety tool that you've included in the set.
Oh yeah, for sure. So one of our favorites is checkpoints. I like doing are we okay? Just a beat after a scene, especially if it's been really emotional or really trying, or you have an argument at the table. Checkpoints are a really useful one for me because it's I know you're role-playing, but I want to make sure that hasn't snaked its way into your actual heart. How are you doing? And it can be as easy as, everybody good? And everyone's like, yeah, we're great, right? You're playing with actors, you're playing with performers, you want to make sure that everybody's doing good. So checkpoints are one of my favorites. It's really, really great. And easy, and it doesn't interrupt the scene, and it's just useful.
So what systems is this available for?
This is TTRPG setting agnostic. It works with every single one of them. There is nothing in here that is going to reference any one system at all. This is just storytelling fundamentals. The same reason that a lot of systems don't have character creation, backstory elements is the reason why this works with everything. We're filling a gap in a lot of different systems. So many games say that hey, do you start in a tavern? Do you start here? Figure out where your party's known each other from. We fill that gap of, you can build in the reasons why you're all together, the reasons why your stories are interconnected, the reasons why you're on this quest through the story path and the fragment decks. So it works for every game. It's just, we have so many people who come and get it. We had 3 teachers today come and say, hey, I'm just bringing this into the classroom. This is just fostering kind communication. I'm going to bring it and teach it to kids to say storytelling fundamentals. So there's a lot of that you can use it for, and it works with everything.
I know you're super busy with the release.
But we're in the speakeasy. That's the whole point of this, is we get to get off the con floor, the noise drops down at least 20%, and we get to have a little time to talk about the games that we love. So thanks.
So before we sign off, where can we find you, Mythic Grove? Where can we pick up the Session Zero system?
Yeah, so we're in Kickstarter fulfillment right now for the Session Zero system. All of our backers are going to be getting their copies before Christmas, and then we're all going to sleep, and then we're going to go into retail. This is going to be available probably in spring of 2024, but we are currently at PAX Unplugged right now. We're selling 1,000 pre-release copies, and then once those are gone, they're gone. My name's Elise Resendez. You can find me everywhere online at Blickimore, BLIKIMOR. My business partner, Gabe Hicks, is everywhere on the internet at Gabe Jam Games, and we are Mythic Grove Productions. Two of us are making games that help people tell kinder stories.
And if you missed out at PAX Unplugged, you can still pre-order both versions of the Session Zero system using the link in the description. But before you can actually start your Session Zero, you need to decide on what system you want to use, and maybe D&D isn't the right fit for your campaign. If you think this might be the case for you, then maybe you should check out this video here, where we run down our top 10 TTRPGs that are not Dungeons & Dragons.